I got divorce papers while I'm deployed. Lauren, what the hell?
I need a life, Jack, not endless soon.
The desert heat softens metal, grit crunches between my teeth. The patrol quiet. Mail 3 envelopes. The third is heavier. Inside are not words, but a verdict. Divorce. What does a soldier do when the front line suddenly moves home? Subscribe, leave a like, and after listening, please drop a comment. The continuation is already waiting. The desert has its own smell. Dust, fuel, metal baked in the sun until it can scald without a touch. And sweat constant, biting, soaking a uniform through within minutes after morning checks. I was used to that smell. 4 months in Iraq, my 3rd rotation in 5 years of service. You become part of the landscape, dust, rock, a sky that melts from heat and has no end. Today had been calm. The patrol passed without incident, no alarms, no radio calls ripping the night open and forcing hands to weapons. Just routine. Perimeter checks, a checkpoint shift, reports we had to fill out by hand because the computer froze again, choked by dust in the cooling system. I sat in the tent shade and tried to write a letter home. Paper in front of me, pen in my hand, but the words would not come. What can I write? That everything is fine here, that I miss her, that I am counting the days until I come back. All true, and yet not enough. Lauren deserves more than empty phrases, but I did not know how to say what was really in my heart. How do I explain that part of me stayed back there with her, and that here I only function, breathe, follow orders, exist? Mercer, I heard Lieutenant Carlos call from the command tent. Mail's here. I set the unfinished letter aside and went to pick up my small stack of envelopes. Usually, they were bills Lauren forwarded for my signature, some official form from the bank, or letters from my father, short, awkward, printed in block letters because his eyes are not what they used to be. My father was never a man of many words, but he always tried to write. It had become a kind of ritual between us. Carlos handed me 3 envelopes. The first was from my father. The second was advertising. The third was from Lauren. I recognized her handwriting from a distance, neat, rounded, slanting slightly to the right. She always wrote beautifully. Even her grocery lists looked like calligraphy. I went back to my spot, sat on the folding chair, and opened my father's envelope. Same as always, talk of the corn harvest, that our neighbor Frank had argued with his wife again over the pickup, and the weather. Everything's fine here, son. Do not worry about me. Take care of yourself out there. Signed, Dad. I smiled. He never said, I love you aloud, but his letters were full of it. Then I took Lauren's envelope. Something felt off. Heavier. Thicker. I tore the edge and pulled out several pages. The first was her letter. The second was an official document with the seal of the District Court of Clifton County, Oklahoma. Petition for dissolution of marriage. I froze, staring at the heading. The words blurred, as if someone had written them on water. I read the line again and again. Nothing changed. Lauren Ann Mercer versus Jack Thomas Mercer. Petition for dissolution of marriage without property division. My heart pounded up in my throat, dull and painful. I set the papers down and picked up her letter. Jack, forgive me for doing this way. I know you are far away. I know it is hard for you right now, but I cannot wait. I cannot keep living as if everything were fine when it is not. You left again. A 3rd time in 5 years. Each time I promised myself I would hold on, that I would wait, that I would not complain. I cannot anymore. I cannot live in this empty apartment where every corner reminds me of you, but you are not here. I cannot lie down alone every night and hear your voice on the phone once a week when the connection allows. I am lonely, Jack, and I understand the Army is your choice, your path, and I have no right to ask you to change it. But I also understand I cannot keep living like this. This is not a life. This is waiting for a life. I do not blame you. You are doing what you believe is right, but I have to do what is right for me. Please sign the papers and send them back. The attorney will handle everything. I do not want this to be hard for either of us. Lauren. I read to the end and folded the letter carefully. My hands did not shake. The voice in my head did not scream. Inside there was only a strange emptiness, as if something important had been switched off, leaving only silence. I waited for pain, for anger, for something. Nothing came. Only acceptance. Cold, calm acceptance of a fact. Tom Bailey, my squad mate, came over with a mug of coffee. "Hey, Hawk, you good?" he asked, probably reading my face. "Yeah," I said, sliding the letter back into the envelope. "I am fine." He did not believe me, but he did not push. Tom knows when to keep quiet. That evening, I sat on the roof of a shipping container and watched the sun go down. The sky burned red and orange, as if someone had set the horizon on fire. I thought about Lauren, about how we met in college, how I proposed on the shore of Lake Texoma, how she cried with joy when I slipped the ring on her finger, how she waved goodbye when the bus took us to base before my first deployment, how her voice trembled when she said she missed me. I knew she was right. I knew I could not give her what she needed. I could not be home when I was called to serve. I could not choose between her and duty, and she could not wait forever. War takes many things, not just lives. It strips away pieces of you, pieces of your relationships, pieces of your soul. And when you come back, you realize you are not the person you were. The people around you have changed too, or they have simply gone. I signed the papers the next morning. I did not delay, did not search for excuses. I just put my name where it needed to be and sent them back. No dramatics, no last words. It felt like the most honest thing to let her go without a fight. 2 months later, my rotation ended. We flew home on a big transport, packed with soldiers laughing, singing, hammering out messages to loved ones. I sat by a window, looked down at the clouds, and wondered what would be waiting for me at home. When we landed at Fort Hood in Texas, there was no cheering family crowd for me, only a staff officer with a message. My father had died 3 days earlier, a heart attack. A neighbor found him on the porch. I drove to Oklahoma for the funeral. A small church on the edge of town, maybe a dozen people there to honor a quiet, honest farmer who had lived a quiet, honest life. The pastor spoke about eternity, about rest, about my father being in a better place now. I stood by the coffin in dress uniform and looked at his face peaceful, finally free of pain. After the service, I saw her. Lauren stood at the back by the door in a simple black dress. Our eyes met for a second, and I saw something like regret in hers, or guilt, or just sorrow. I nodded. She nodded back. We did not walk to each other. We did not hug. We did not say a word. Between us there was emptiness, dead space, as if we had never been together, as if all those years' college parties, laughter, promises, tearful goodbyes had never existed. San Antonio greeted me with heat that reminded me of Iraq, only here it was different, wetter, softer, with a taste of blooming magnolias and coffee from roadside diners. Fort Sam Houston became my new posting after I requested a transfer. I needed to run from Oklahoma, from memories, from my father's empty house. I could not bring myself to sell. For the first months, I lived like a machine. Up at 5, a run, breakfast at the mess, training with a new platoon, paperwork, dinner, sleep. No distractions, no weekend plans. I did not even fully unpack, as if I was subconsciously preparing for another move, another escape. Tom Bailey, who also transferred here, refused to let me lock myself away completely. He dragged me to bars on Fridays, tried to introduce me to local women, told stupid jokes until he got at least a smile out of me. "Hawk, you cannot do this forever," he said one evening as we sat in a small Mexican place near base. "You have to live, man. Really live, not just exist." "I am living," I said, staring at an enchilada. "You are lying." Tom leaned back and shook his head. "You are hiding from everything and everyone." Maybe he was right. I did not know another way. After Lauren, after my father, after everything that had happened in the past year, I did not have the strength for more. Everything changed on a Saturday morning in November when I volunteered at a family day on base. Command had set up a fair games for kids, food, music. I signed up for the hot dog line because it was easier stand behind a table, smile, do not think. That is where I saw her. Claire Donovan worked the lemonade table beside us. She was laughing with a little girl who had spilled her drink down the front of her dress and tried to dab the stain away with a napkin while joking until the kid stopped crying and laughed too. Claire had light hair pulled back into a ponytail, smiling green eyes, and a natural lightness that belonged to someone who did not carry the weight of the past. She noticed me looking and waved. "Hey, you with the hot dogs, can I get one? I am starving." I smiled without meaning to and passed her a plate. "Thanks," she said, stepping closer. "I am Claire. You are new, right? I have not seen you at these things." "Jack," I said. "Jack Mercer. Transferred here 3 months ago." "Nice to meet you, Jack," she said, and we shook hands. Her grip was firm, warm. "I am not military. I volunteer sometimes. My dad serves on base, General Donovan. You may have heard of him." Of course, I had. Major General Robert Donovan was a legend, a Desert Storm veteran, twice decorated, a man with iron principles and a reputation for being fair and demanding. "I have," I said, "a respected man." He would smile to hear that. Claire laughed. "He likes being respected. At home, he is just a guy who misplaces his glasses and gets mad for half an hour until my mom reminds him they are on his head." We talked. First about small things, the fair, the weather, which city is better, San Antonio or Austin. Then more personal. She told me she had a sociology degree but never found herself in office work and chose to volunteer at shelters, organizing fundraisers, working with kids from hard situations. "I just want to do something that matters, you know," she said, and the sincerity in her voice made me believe every word. "Money is fine, a career is great, but when you see a kid smile because you helped, or someone thanks you for being there in a hard moment, that is different. That is real." I looked at her and realized that for the first time in months, I felt something besides emptiness. Not love, not yet. Interest, curiosity, a pull to know more about this woman who carried light so easily it seemed effortless. We exchanged numbers at the end of the day. I did not plan to call. Old fears still held me, whispering that everything ends in pain anyway. 3 days later, I dialed her. "Hi, Claire. It is Jack. From the fair." "Jack," her voice was bright, genuine. "I thought you were not going to call." "I could not make myself," I admitted. "Well, I am glad you did," she laughed. "Want to meet up? Coffee? A walk? Something that does not need a week of planning." We met the next day, then again and again. Claire was nothing like Lauren. Where Lauren was reserved and inward, Claire was open and talkative. Where Lauren waited for me to come forward with my feelings, Claire just asked, "What are you feeling? What is on your mind?" She did not fear hard subjects, war, loss, the things pressing on me. "You do not have to be strong all the time, Jack," she said one evening as we sat by the San Antonio River. "You can just be a person. With hurts and fears, that is okay." I fell for her gradually, piece by piece. For the way she laughed full-throated, unguarded. For the way she touched my hand when she wanted to underline something important. For the way she looked at the world with hope, with a belief in goodness, even when there was so much bad around. 6 months later, I met General Donovan. It was formal dinner at their house, me in dress uniform, my heart pounding like I was walking into an interrogation. He was not as terrifying as I expected. He asked about my service, my plans, how I treated his daughter. I answered honestly, without polish. "She is special, Sergeant Mercer," he said at the end, the two of us alone on the terrace with whiskey glasses. "My daughter sees the best in people, sometimes even what is not there. I ask one thing, do not leave her with a choice she would regret." "I will do everything I can, sir," I said, meeting his eyes. He nodded, and I knew I had his blessing. We married the next spring. A small garden wedding at the Donovans' home family and close friends. Claire wore a simple white dress with a crown of wildflowers in her hair, and when she walked toward me, Something broke inside me, the old pain, the old distrust, the old fear. It all fell back, leaving only her smile and the warmth of her hand. Sophie was born a year later. Tiny, dark-haired, gray-eyed, she looked like me. She was a calm baby, rarely cried, slept a lot, studied the world with a solemn stare, as if she meant to understand everything at once. Ellie came 4 years after Sophie. She was the opposite, loud, emotional, bursting with energy. She cried loudly and laughed louder, and every day with her was a small adventure. I watched my daughters and Claire singing them to sleep and understood I had finally found home. Not a spot on a map, not a house of brick and wood. Home was these people, their voices, their laughter, their warmth. For the first time in years, I was happy, truly happy. I believed it would last. That morning started like any other. Sophie sat at the kitchen table, carefully tracing letters in a workbook, tongue peeking out in concentration. Ellie played with dolls on the floor, giving them names and whole stories about princesses and dragons. Claire cooked breakfast, whistling a melody the radio had been spinning for weeks. I drank coffee at the window and looked out at the street. A December sun barely pushed through gray clouds, and the thermometer showed 2 degrees below zero. It had rained overnight, and now everything wore a thin glass of ice: trees, cars, sidewalks. The city had turned into a fragile winter fairy tale, beautiful and dangerous. "Jack, are you on base until lunch?" Claire asked, sliding eggs onto plates. "Until 2, I said. "I can pick up the girls from school and daycare if you want." "No need." She smiled, kissed my cheek. "Mom wants to go shopping with me, and then we will get them together. We have not had time, just the 2 of us, in a while." Mary Donovan, Claire's mother, had been visiting more often lately. After her husband's death, the general had died of a stroke half a year ago. She tried to hold on, but loneliness pressed in. Claire understood and spent time with her whenever she could. They were very close, those 2 similar faces, similar hearts, the same smile, the same way of tipping the head to listen. "Just be careful on the road," I said, looping an arm around her waist. "It is slick out there." "Do not worry." She kissed me again, longer. "We are not in a hurry. We will be fine." I left for base at 8. The day was full: training plans, equipment checks, a meeting with senior staff. Tom swung by my office around 1, brought cafeteria sandwiches, and we ate while talking about vacation. He was heading to his parents in Louisiana for Christmas. I planned to stay home. The girls were eager for the holiday, and Claire had a program ready: decorating the tree, baking cookies, a trip to a ranch to see deer. The phone rang at 3:16. Unknown number. Normally, I let those go, but something made me answer. "Sergeant Mercer," a woman's voice, official, a little tight. "Yes, speaking." "This is Officer Jennifer Reid with San Antonio Police. You need to come to Methodist Hospital immediately. There has been an accident involving your wife, Claire Mercer, and Mary Donovan." The world stopped. Sound dimmed, as if someone dropped a blanket over me. I heard Officer Reid say things, something about a bridge, about a slick road, about hurrying, but the words would not form sentences. I do not remember how I got to the hospital. Tom drove. I sat looking out the window, pressing my hands together hard enough to cut my palms with my nails. He tried to talk, to steady me, but I heard only my own heartbeat. A doctor met us, young, tired face, thin-rimmed glasses. He took me to a small room and asked me to sit. I stayed standing. "Sergeant Mercer," he said, taking off his glasses, wiping them, putting them back on. The gesture was so small, so wrong, against what he was about to say. "Your wife and mother-in-law were crossing the Interstate 37 bridge. A truck driver lost control on the ice and crossed the median. The impact was significant. The ambulance brought them here. We did everything we could, but—" "Where are they?" I cut him off. I could not listen to the slow walk toward the truth. "I am very sorry. We could not save them. The injuries were not survivable. They died en route." Silence. Long, heavy, unbearable. "Both?" The voice sounded like mine, but belonged to someone else. "Yes, both." I am very sorry. My legs gave. Tom caught my arm and eased me into a chair. The doctor said something about procedures, the morgue, that they would give me time. I did not hear. I stared at the floor and thought about Claire kissing me that morning, smiling, saying, "We will be fine." The funeral was 5 days later. 2 coffins side by side, Claire and Mary. The church overflowed friends, Claire's colleagues from her charities, military who knew General Donovan and came to honor his wife and daughter. Sophie sat beside me, holding my hand, not crying, her face pale, her eyes empty. Ellie did not understand. She whispered, "Daddy, when is Mommy coming home? When do we go to Grandma's?" I did not know what to say. I just held her and stroked her hair. The pastor spoke of mercy, of Claire and Mary in a better world without pain. I wanted to scream that I did not care about a better world. I wanted them here, alive now. I stayed quiet. Soldiers do not scream at funerals. Soldiers hold the line. When it ended, when the last guests left, I stood by Claire's grave looking at the fresh earth and the flowers already wilting in the cold. Tom took the girls to the car and gave me a few minutes alone. "Forgive me," I whispered, not sure to whom, to Claire, to God, to myself. "I did not protect you. I was not there." The wind cut my face, sharp and cold. The sky was a flat, hopeless gray. I stood until my fingers went numb and Tom touched my shoulder. "Come on, Hawk. The girls need you." A month later, I moved back to Oklahoma. I could not stay in San Antonio, where every corner held Claire. My father's house stood empty. I decided that was a sign. Maybe this was where we could start over, me and my 2 daughters. The house was old, wooden, with a creaking porch and a big yard. I fixed up the girls' rooms, painted walls, bought new furniture. I tried to make it feel like home, knowing no house would be a home without Claire. Sophie started a new school. She adapted quickly, made friends, but grew quieter, more closed. She no longer stuck out her tongue while doing homework. She just sat and wrote, silent, as if any sound might break the thin calm we were building. Ellie cried at night, called for her mother, and I came, lifted her, rocked her, and sang lullabies I remembered from Claire. She fell asleep in my arms, little fingers hooked into my shirt, and I sat for hours, afraid to move and wake her. I got work as a mechanic at a local shop. Simple physical labor that did not demand thinking, only movement. Mornings, get the girls up, make breakfast, drop them at school and daycare. Day, fix cars, change oil, check brakes. Evening, pick them up, dinner, homework, play, bed. Day after day, week after week. We lived, but life felt hollow, as if the 3 of us walked forward without knowing where or why, just because we had to. Ellie complained of stomach pain for 3 days straight. At first, I thought it was nothing, too much candy or nerves from the first week at a new daycare. I made her mint tea, rubbed her back, told stories to distract her. On the morning of the 4th day, she woke with a fever and vomiting. I knew it was more. Sophie helped me pack while I dressed Ellie. She was limp against me, her skin burned. I tried to stay calm, but my heart hammered so loudly I was sure it was audible. "Daddy, will she be okay?" Sophie asked from the back seat, holding her sister's hand. "Yes, honey," I said, checking the mirror. "The doctors will take care of her." The emergency department took us quickly. The doctor, an older woman with gray hair and tired, kind eyes, examined Ellie, asked some questions, ordered labs, and an ultrasound. An hour later, she was back. "Appendicitis," she said, pulling off her gloves. "She needs surgery now. If we wait, it could burst." The word surgery hit like thunder. Ellie was only 6. She cried and clung to me. I held her and tried to soothe her while my knees went weak. "How long will it take?" I asked. "About an hour. It is a standard procedure. Do not worry. Dr. Grayson is one of our best surgeons. Your daughter will be in good hands." They rolled Ellie away 20 minutes later. I kissed her forehead and told her it would be okay, that I would be waiting, and watched the gurney go down the hall until it disappeared behind double doors. Sophie fell asleep against my shoulder in the waiting room. I sat still, stared at the wall, and prayed to every god I believed in and did not, that my little girl would be fine. That is when I saw her. She came out of a corridor with a tablet, talking to another nurse. Her light hair was shorter than I remembered, pulled back. There was fatigue on her face, a few fine lines at the eyes that had not been there before. I would have known her anywhere. "Lauren." She looked up and saw me, stopped mid-step. Surprise, then something like fear passed across her face. We looked at each other for a few seconds that felt like forever. Then she walked over. Slowly, as if unsure it was the right choice. "Jack," she said softly. "Hi." "Hi, Lauren," I said, keeping my voice even. "I heard about Claire. I am so sorry." I nodded, not sure what to say. The mention of Claire always hurt, especially now, waiting outside an operating room. "Is that your daughter?" Lauren nodded toward Sophie, sleeping on my shoulder. "The older one, Sophie. The younger one, Ellie, is in surgery. Appendicitis." "Is Dr. Grayson operating?" she asked. I nodded. "Then do not worry. He is very good. Your daughter is safe." We were quiet. The awkwardness was heavy and real. "You work here?" I asked, though it was obvious. "Yes. For 3 years now. I moved back to Oklahoma after everything." She lowered her eyes. I needed to start over. I wanted to ask, after what? But I did not have the strength for that conversation. Ellie was all I could think about. "I need to get back," she said, stepping back. "But if you need anything, I am around." "Thank you," I said. She left, and I was alone with my thoughts again. The surgery went well. Dr. Grayson came out after about 45 minutes and said everything looked good. Ellie would wake in an hour, and we could see her. Relief hit me so hard, I nearly cried right there in the hall. Lauren came by the room while we sat with Ellie. She checked the Roman 4, took the temperature, smiled at Ellie, and told her about the little puppies she had seen on the way to work. Ellie listened, leaning against me, and smiled now and then. "She is nice," Ellie whispered after Lauren left. "I like that lady." I did not answer. I kissed her forehead. The next day, when I came to take Ellie home, Lauren stopped me by the door. "Jack, can we talk?" Her voice trembled. "About what?" "About us. About what happened." I did not want that talk. The past was the past, and I saw no point digging up old wounds. But something in her eyes' desperation made me stop. "Okay, not here, not now." We met a week later at a small park by a lake. Sophie and Ellie played on the swings while we sat on a bench and watched the sun slide down. "I cheated on you," Lauren said without preface, sharp and direct. "When you were in Iraq the first time. It was a neighbor. He was kind, attentive, and I was lonely. That does not excuse it. It is just the truth." I listened in silence, hands clenched on my knees. I got pregnant by him. I did not know what to do. I thought about an abortion, but kept putting it off, afraid. Then, I lost the baby in the 3rd month. A miscarriage. Her voice broke. I fell into a depression. I started drinking. A little at first to dull the pain, then more. I could not tell you any of it, so I filed for divorce. I thought that would be easier. I turned to her. Her face was wet with tears, and she did not wipe them away. "Why tell me now?" "Because you deserve the truth, and because I cannot live with this lie anymore." She scrubbed at her eyes. "I am in Alcoholics Anonymous. A year now, I am trying to climb out. One of the steps is to admit your wrongs to those you hurt." I stared at the girls on the swings for a long time. "I cannot forgive you right now," I said at last. "Maybe I never will. But I see you are trying to be better. That counts for something." She nodded and wiped her cheeks. "Thank you for listening." We started seeing each other more. At first by chance at the hospital when I brought Ellie for follow-ups. Then on purpose I asked Lauren to coffee. She said yes. We talked about everything and nothing: work, the kids, life. We avoided the heavy things, the old wounds. I learned about her meetings, and when she said it was hard to get there on public transit, I offered to drive. She resisted at first. I insisted. "This is not for you," I said. "It is for me, to know you get there safe." She started coming to dinner. Sophie and Ellie loved her. She played with them, read stories, helped with homework. Watching that warmed something in me. Not love yet, but warmth. Maybe hope. One evening it went wrong. Lauren came wearing a new perfume Shalimar, sweet and rich with vanilla and bergamot. The same one Claire wore. The scent hit like a physical blow. Memories crashed over me, Claire hugging me before work, Claire laughing, Claire lying in a coffin. "Take it off," I said, too sharp, barely holding my temper. Lauren's eyes lifted, confused. "What?" "The perfume. Wash it off. Now." "Jack, what?" "It is her scent," I shouted. The girls flinched. "It is what Claire wore. You do not get to do that." Lauren went white. She stood, grabbed her bag, and left without a word. I stood in the kitchen, shaking with rage and hurt, aware I had just broken something fragile. I could not stop. The pain was too big. The tornado came after dark, when the sky had turned ink. Sirens wailed at 6, and I shoved the girls into the cellar in time. Sophie gripped Ellie's hand. They sat still and listened to the roaring above us. The wind howled so loud it felt like the house would tear off the foundation and fly. The storm passed in 20 minutes and left chaos. When we climbed out, I saw the neighbor's roof gone and a huge tree blocking the street. Power was out, phone lines down. The air smelled of ozone and wet earth. I took the girls to Tom's. He lived a few blocks away and his place had held. I left them with his wife, Carol, and drove toward downtown where I heard it was worst. First responders were already working pulling people from wreckage, giving first aid, clearing roads. I joined a crew at a collapsed house on Main Street. An older woman was trapped inside, shouting for help. We lifted beams, shoved aside roof sections, worked fast. We got her out shaken, alive. Then I heard a shout. "Watch it, the brace." I turned and saw a heavy steel support start to wobble. A young volunteer, maybe 20, stood frozen beside it. I did not think. I leapt and shoved him away. The beam dropped a heartbeat later and smashed my leg. White pain shot through me. Something cracked. I went down and screamed. The next minutes are smeared faces over me, voices, someone straining at the beam, someone yelling into a radio for an ambulance. The pain narrowed the world to a dark tunnel with a heartbeat. Darkness. I woke in a hospital room. White ceiling, antiseptic, monitors beeping. My leg was in a cast and slung on a frame above the bed. My head throbbed. My mouth felt stuffed with cotton. "Jack." I turned. Lauren sat in a chair with her hand on mine. Her face was pale. There were dark halos under her eyes. How long have I been here?" The voice sounded like mine, dulled. 2 days. They operated bad break, torn ligaments. Dr. Grayson said you were lucky. It could have been much worse." I tried to sit. Pain flared and I groaned. "Do not move," Lauren said, palm to my chest. "You need to lie still." "The girls," I rasped. "Where are my girls?" "With Tom and Carol. Safe. I took them during the day, fed them, brought them here. They want to see you, but the doctor said to wait until you are a little stronger." I closed my eyes and let the relief wash over me. "Thank you," I whispered. "You are welcome." She barely left over the next days. She picked up extra shifts to work my floor, brought food, read the paper out loud, told me stories about the girls. Sophie drew a picture our family under a rainbow, all of us holding hands. Ellie wrote a note in wobbly letters. "Daddy, I love you, get better soon." I looked at those and understood how much they needed me, how I was not allowed to quit, no matter the pain. One evening, as the sun painted the sky pink and orange, Lauren sat by me reading. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. She looked up. "What exactly?" "Taking care of me, of my kids. After what I said to you, after that night. She set the book down. Because I still care about you, Jack. I always did, even when everything fell apart, even when I destroyed it with my own hands. Her voice was quiet and steady. And because your kids need someone there when you are down, they cannot lose you too. I reached my hand out, and she took it. We sat a long time that way, silent, holding on. They discharged me a week later with crutches and a list of instructions that felt endless. Lauren helped me to the car, settled me in, careful as if I were made of glass. The girls met me at home with such joy that I nearly cried. Sophie hugged me gently, wary of the cast. Ellie climbed into my lap and would not let go until she fell asleep on my chest. Lauren stayed the night. She put the girls to bed, cleaned the kitchen, made tea. We sat on the couch, watching an old movie, and for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. I want to try again, she said suddenly, eyes on the TV. I turned to her. What? Us. I want to try again, if you do. She finally looked at me. I know I wrecked everything before. I know I do not deserve a second chance. But if there is even the smallest possibility. I did not let her finish. I kissed her. Long, slow, as if to remember how it had been. She kissed back, arms careful around me so she would not bump my leg. Yes, I whispered when we paused. I want to try too. A month later, when I could walk without crutches, I asked her to a concert. The local symphony at the old theater on the town square. Lauren loves classical music. I remembered that from college road trips to Oklahoma City to hear Tchaikovsky. She wore a simple black dress and pinned up her hair. When she came out of the bathroom, I forgot to breathe for a second. She was beautiful, not the shining brightness Claire had, but something quieter, deeper. The concert was wonderful. Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert music that lifted us off the ground. I held her hand. She leaned on my shoulder. Everything felt right. After, we drove to a small roadside motel. Nothing fancy, clean room, big bed, window toward the highway. We stood in the middle of the room looking at each other, and suddenly the night unraveled. Jack, she said, stepping back. I cannot. What? I did not understand. What is wrong? You do not want me. You want her. Her voice shook. You look at me and I see you searching for her in me. Claire, you want me to be her, and I cannot. I am not her. Lauren, that is not. It is, Jack. She raised her voice, and tears ran. You say you want me, but you are trying to fill a hole she left. I cannot be your replacement. I cannot live in a dead woman's shadow. I wanted to deny it, to say it was not true, that I wanted her. The word stuck. Somewhere deep I knew she was right. Part of me still clung to Claire, to memories, to what would never come back. Lauren grabbed her bag and left. I stood in the empty room staring at the closed door. In the weeks after, we drifted apart. She stopped coming to dinner, stopped calling, stopped texting. I saw her sometimes in the grocery store, on the street, and we nodded without stopping. The girls asked about her. Where is Miss Lauren? Why is she not coming? I had no answer. I said she was busy at work and would come soon, but weeks became months, and Sophie stopped asking. Ellie still mentioned her sometimes, and each time it hurt. I started thinking about the army again, about going back to active duty, about deployments, about running from all of it, pain, loneliness, the sense I had broken things again. Tom talked me down. You cannot run, Hawk, he said as we drank beer on the porch. You have 2 kids. They need you here, not on the far side of the world. Maybe they are better off without me, I muttered. That is the dumbest thing I have heard you say. Tom shook his head. Those girls adore you. You are all they have left. Do not wreck that. He was right. Knowing did not ease the ache. The New Year's party at the city hospital was just loud enough to drown loneliness, but not conscience. I was there by accident. Tom dragged me along. His buddy had an invite. We stood by a table of plastic cups when 2 nurses from Lauren's unit walked up. You are Jack? The shorter one asked, red Polish flashing. Listen, She still loves you. She just will not take the first step. The other nodded. She says she ruined your life twice and will not ask for a third chance. But the way her eyes change when she hears your name, you get the idea. I did. I thanked them and went out into the cold. The clock on the courthouse said 10:30. Snow crunched under my boots. I climbed into my pickup and drove to the hospital. At night, the runs on its own pulse. Doors hiss, gurneys squeak, monitors clear their throats in blips. Lauren stood at the desk with a tablet and a stethoscope on her neck. She saw me and froze, like that first time in the hall after Ellie's surgery. "Jack, what are you doing here?" Her voice was steady. Her fingers whitened around the edge of a plastic chart. "To say one sentence," I said, stepping close but not too close. "If you want, I will leave after." She nodded. "I am not looking for Claire. I was looking for you." She closed her eyes and exhaled a short runner's breath. Then she opened them and looked straight at me. "Then do not disappear." I did not. We walked to the lobby and sat on a bench by the coffee machine. We talked plain. I said I was done patching emptiness with memories, that I was learning to live here and now. She said a year of sobriety had taught her to own her choices and stop running from pain. Neither of us excused ourselves. We said the truth. We both survived. We both had reasons to live. The weeks after were quiet. No grand forevers, no chest-cracking promises. Coffee after her shift. Grocery runs on Saturday. Homework with Sophie. Drawing with Ellie. Lauren taught the girls to tie soft hairbands without tugging. I taught Lauren to light the old stove in my father's house with a single match. We stepped into each other's lives carefully, like wading into cold water. Step, pause, another step. 2 months later, I drove into town to a jeweler. I asked for a simple platinum band with no stones. Inside, I wanted it engraved, Sophie Ellie. When the craftsman asked why, I said, "Because it is all of us or nothing." He just nodded. I proposed on an ordinary evening. No restaurant candles. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon from cookies the girls had covered in bright icing. Lauren wiped the table with a damp cloth when I went to one knee. "I cannot fix what broke," I said, "but I want to build what can hold. With you, with us. Will you take me back not as a shadow of the past, but as who I am today?" She covered her mouth and sat slowly, afraid to spill the air. I put the ring in her palm so she could read the engraving. Her eyes shone. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Ellie clapped. Sophie asked, very serious, if there would be a cake. We said there would. There was plain, white frosting, crooked letters that said us. 5 months later, we married. A small ceremony in the yard. Tom was my witness. Carol strung lights over the tables. The town pastor came in a gray coat without pomp, read a short passage about mercy and responsibility. Sophie carried the ring on a mint-colored pillow, focused and older than her years. Ellie knotted herself in a ribbon, giggled, and everyone laughed with her. Before we stepped out, Lauren went into the bedroom and took longer than usual to close the door. When she came back, I caught the scent. The same one Shalimar. I saw her watching my face. I stepped close and whispered, "Now it is about us." She nodded, and we walked out to our guests. The vows were short. I promised to speak in time and not bottle things until they explode. She promised not to run from trouble and not to mistake shame for humility. We promised to protect the girls and be the kind of anchor no storm can rip free. On the tables, warm cookies, 2 pots of chili, lemonade in big glass jars. No endless toasts. Tom raised a cup and said, "To a home that does not build itself, but can be built." We ate, laughed, snapped Polaroids to tuck into a box labeled family. The sun went down, swallows stitched the sky, and for the first time in a long time, I did not want to go anywhere. Late that night, after the guests left, the 4 of us sat on the porch. Sophie leaned against my shoulder. Ellie dozed on Lauren's lap, fingers pinching the edge of her mother's dress. The house cracked softly. Somewhere far off, a last pickup rolled by. You know, Lauren said with a half smile, once that scent meant a mistake. Now it means a choice, I said. Ours. She rested her head on my shoulder. I felt the weight of a child, the warmth of a woman, the even breath of my older daughter, and I understood something simple I had refused to accept. Peace is not when nothing hurts. It is when you know what you endure for and what you are building. Home is not brick and not an address. It is the people you get up for in the morning and come back to at night. It is a name engraved inside a ring where it touches skin. It is a scent that no longer cuts, but says, "You are where you belong." We were finally where we belonged, and this time together. Hit like, and don't forget to subscribe. The next story will be even more intense. But if you are under 18, don't even think about clicking next.